They told her she was marrying a man who had nothing. A man who couldn't see the world, much less protect her from it. But what no one knew was that behind his blindness was a secret bigger than she could ever imagine. In today's shocking story, you'll witness how a marriage built on pity turned into the most dangerous game of truth, betrayal, and survival. Don't click away, because the final moment in this episode will blow your mind. Subscribe, like, and comment, because this is the kind of story you don't hear every day. She married a blind man out of pity, but what she found hidden in his basement changed everything. The proposal that shocked everyone. Miranda Lewis never imagined herself marrying someone like Daniel. She was young, ambitious, and full of dreams. He was quiet, withdrawn, and legally blind since the age of 12. They met at the local rehabilitation center where Miranda volunteered once a week. At first it was just casual conversations. Books, music, the weather. But then he started remembering little details about her. Her favorite coffee, the way she paused when she was nervous, the perfume she wore on Tuesdays. "I might be blind," Daniel once told her, "but I notice things most people don't." Everyone in Miranda's life disapproved. Her mother warned her that she was throwing her life away, while her friends whispered behind her back that she was marrying him out of guilt. But what they didn't know was that Daniel made her feel seen, deeply, soulfully seen, in a way no one else ever had. Still, she had her doubts, especially when Daniel proposed after only 5 months. It wasn't a ring he gave her, it was a small antique key. "This opens the door to my past," he whispered. "If you say yes, I'll show you one day." Miranda laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a poetic gesture. She never imagined he meant it literally. He said yes, and her life changed forever. Life behind closed eyes. Married life with Daniel was quiet. He lived in a beautiful old farmhouse inherited from his grandparents, ivy curling along the walls, floors that creaked with every step. He paid everything in cash, didn't talk much about work, and avoided town social events. But he was kind, gentle. He cooked well, painted vivid abstract art that somehow made her cry, and always kissed her forehead before bed. Yet strange things began to happen. Sometimes, Daniel would walk around the house effortlessly, dodging furniture with uncanny precision. Once, she caught him staring directly at her. She waved her hand in front of his face, and he blinked. "I can hear where you are," he said quickly. "I felt the air shift." Another time, she found a drawer full of foreign passports, each with different names and faces, but all with his birth date. She asked questions. He gave soft, confusing answers. "You'll understand everything, eventually." The whispering basement. One stormy night the power went out. Miranda reached for the flashlight in the kitchen drawer but found it missing. She lit candles and started looking for Daniel. But he was nowhere in the house. She noticed something odd. The basement door, which was always locked, was ajar. She descended the wooden steps, calling his name. What she saw next chilled her to her bones. There were high-end surveillance monitors, showing the front porch, living room, even their bedroom. A metal locker sat in the corner, locked with a fingerprint scanner. Behind the locker, she noticed a wall that looked newer, not quite like the rest of the basement. She reached out, pressing against the panels. One shifted slightly. Secret door. Before she could push further, Daniel appeared behind her. His footsteps silent. "I asked you to trust me," he said in a voice she didn't recognize. Firm, sharp, nothing like the gentleman she knew. She stepped back, heart racing. "Who are you, Daniel?" The truth begins to leak. Daniel didn't yell. He didn't panic. He just sighed, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a tiny device. He pressed it, and the metal locker popped open. Inside were files, photos, weapons, stacks of money. "You think I'm blind," he said quietly. "But I see more than most." He handed her one photo. It was her, before they ever met, walking out of her university years ago. "Why do you have this?" "I was assigned to protect you, Miranda. Long before you ever knew me." She felt dizzy. Assigned. What does that mean? Are you some kind of... I work for a private security intelligence firm, he interrupted. I've been in deep cover for years. Your father used to work with us before he died. You're not just a volunteer, Miranda. You're a target. The assassin and the lover. The next morning, Miranda woke up wondering if it had all been a dream. But it wasn't. Daniel was already up, dressed differently than she'd ever seen him, in tactical boots, a hidden holster under his shirt. And the key he gave her on the night of the proposal. It opened a second door behind the basement's secret panel, revealing a hidden escape tunnel. Someone is coming for you, he said grimly. They know you're my wife now. That changes everything. But why me? She demanded. Why would anyone come for me? Because your father didn't just die in a plane crash, Daniel said. He was murdered. And now they're tying up loose ends. Miranda's hands trembled. Her life had just become a spy movie, but with real bullets, real blood, and no script. The revelation that shattered her. 2 days later, while Daniel went to run surveillance, Miranda couldn't help herself. She went back to the basement, into the secret tunnel. At the end of the long stone corridor, she found a sealed room. Inside, medical chair, 4 bags, vials labeled with her name, recordings of her voice. And one more thing, a locked box labeled Project Mirage. Miranda Lewis, Phase 3. Her knees gave way. What was she to him? A wife. A mission. Was any of this love even real? As the wind howled above and the door creaked behind her, Miranda turned around, and there stood Daniel. Not with his cane. Not looking lost. But standing tall, eyes wide open. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, he said coldly. But now that you know, you can't leave. Daniel stood at the entrance of the tunnel. No cane, no sunglasses, his eyes wide open. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, he said coldly. But now that you know, you can't leave. Locked inside a lie. Miranda's heart thundered as Daniel reached for the steel door. She turned instinctively, but it slammed shut behind her, locking with a chilling hiss. What is this, Daniel? She shouted. You lied to me about everything. He walked into the room. No hesitation in his step, no trace of the man who used to whisper poetry into her ear at night. I didn't lie, he said calmly. I protected you from what would have broken you. And Project Mirage? She asked, shaking. That's not protection. That's experimentation. Daniel's face hardened. You were selected for a reason, Miranda. Your neurological pattern. Your memory resilience. The trauma you survived as a child. You're one of the few people whose mind can survive deep suggestion reprogramming. You were never just some girl. You were the key. Miranda's breath caught. This wasn't a marriage. It was a mission. And she had been the mission from day one. The woman in the mirror. In a panic, Miranda backed into the corner and found a mirror behind her. But something was off. Her reflection blinked out of sync. A half-second delay. She moved her hand. The reflection didn't follow. What is this? Daniel exhaled. It's not a mirror. It's a neural feedback reader. That's how we monitored the results. You don't just remember things, Miranda. You generate controlled false memories better than anyone we've ever seen. Her legs gave out and she collapsed to the floor. You used me. No. I fell for you, he said, kneeling in front of her. That's the part that wasn't supposed to happen. The hidden enemy. 3 days passed. Daniel let her out of the chamber but kept her confined to the house. She wandered from room to room, piecing together fragments. A newspaper clipping hidden in a drawer had a headline. Former intelligence director's daughter vanishes after father's suspicious death. Her picture. Name. Or life. Miranda began to recall flashbacks of men in suits, syringes in her arms, voices saying, "Wipe and repeat. Wipe and repeat." She wasn't just protected. She had been reprogrammed. But something was changing now. Dreams came back. Real memories, her father holding her, a woman in red chasing them through the woods, and one name repeating in her mind like a broken record. Orion. She whispered it out loud. Daniel's face appeared instantly behind her. Where did you hear that name? Miranda didn't answer. But now she knew. Orion wasn't just a name. It was a threat, one Daniel had been hiding from, or working for. The stranger who knew her. That evening, while pretending to sleep, Miranda heard the front door open. Daniel was speaking with someone in a hushed tone. She crept downstairs and peeked around the corner. A woman in a gray trench coat stood beside Daniel. She's unstable, the woman said. She's remembering, Daniel replied. Faster than expected. If she recalls the full sequence, Orion will come for her. You know what must be done. Daniel was silent. Then he whispered something Miranda would never forget. She's not an asset anymore. She's my wife. The woman scoffed. Then maybe we terminate both of you. Miranda held her breath. She had just become the liability, the escape. The next morning, Miranda woke before dawn and broke into the basement again. This time she was ready. She used a fire iron to break the mirror screen and pulled wires from the hidden wall. One sparked, opening a digital console. She guessed the password, her birthday. It worked. Hard drive ejected from the wall. Labeled. Operation Eclipse. Memory Series 7X, Miranda. She didn't know what was on it, but she knew it was important. She grabbed it and ran. The chase begins. Miranda didn't make it far before Daniel realized she was gone. She heard the alarm trip in the house just as she passed the barn. Suddenly, a black SUV pulled into the gravel road, blocking her escape. It wasn't Daniel driving. It was the woman in the trench coat. Miranda turned and ran toward the woods, lungs burning, barefoot, the hard drive clutched to her chest. Gunshots echoed behind her. One grazed her shoulder. But she didn't stop. She found an old hunting cabin half a mile in and hid beneath the floorboards. There she accessed the hard drive using her phone's OTG cable. Videos. Test results. One file labeled. Fake marriage log. Lewis phase. She clicked it. Daniel's voice. Initiating Miranda Lewis infiltration protocol. If emotional bonding exceeds 60%, abort mission. Tears filled her eyes. She had been a protocol. The final blow. As the sun rose, Miranda staggered out of the woods and into a gas station. She begged the clerk for a ride, using the cash she found in the cabin. 3 hours later, she was in another state. She uploaded the files to an anonymous drive and scheduled them to send to every major news outlet in 24 hours. That night, a knock came at her motel door. She opened it, trembling. Daniel stood there, bloody, bruised, desperate. I'm not here to hurt you, he said, hands raised. They tried to kill me too. Orion's gone rogue. They never intended for either of us to survive. Why should I believe anything you say? She whispered. He pulled a USB from his jacket and handed it to her. Because this has the real truth. About what they did to your father. And about you. She stared at it for a long time. Then she stepped aside and let him in. The real truth unlocked. They watched the file together. Her father in a lab speaking to the camera. If you're seeing this, my daughter is alive, and someone lied to you. Orion isn't a threat from outside. It's a hidden faction inside our own agency. They want to create programmable humans. Wipe, rewire, repurpose. Miranda is the only one who ever survived the full sequence. He paused, choking up. I had to give you up to protect you. Daniel was supposed to watch over you. But I never thought he'd fall in love. If he does, trust him. He's more than he seems. Miranda sat frozen. She wasn't just caught in a lie. She was built into it. Daniel looked Miranda in the eyes and said, They're coming tonight. For both of us. We either run. Or we finish what your father started. The countdown. The USB Daniel handed over revealed the full architecture of Project Mirage. Miranda's father had cracked the code. The agency wasn't creating protection units. They were creating programmable human weapons. And Miranda had been the perfect test subject. According to the final log, there were 7 more like her, all unaware of what they were capable of. Some had already gone active. Some were being controlled. One had gone rogue and killed her handler. Orion wasn't trying to silence Miranda out of revenge. They were scared of her. Scared she would wake up the others. And the agency's greatest fear. She would remember how to activate them. The final coordinates. Daniel had one last card to play. A hidden server vault in Vermont that stored the master key to all Mirage subjects. Once uploaded and decrypted, it would either wipe the programming from the remaining subjects or send them all into autonomous mode, a free will override. It would make them human again. Or it could unleash 7 people trained to kill with no memory of their real lives. Once we hit execute, we can't undo it, Daniel told her. Miranda stared at the keyboard. I'm not going to destroy lives to fix mine. Let them be free. She pressed enter. The system blinked. Autonomous mode. Initiated. The assault on the safe house. They had barely 10 minutes before the attack came. Black SUVs. Unmarked helicopters. Infrared lasers dancing through the forest. Daniel set traps around the perimeter while Miranda uploaded the last of her father's files to a global leak platform. They'll try to stop the signal, Daniel said. You'll have to buy me 15 more seconds. Miranda had never held a gun in her life, but tonight she picked one up. As the first soldier burst through the door, she fired once, hitting his leg. Daniel called out from the back room. 10 seconds. She fired again, grazing the shoulder of a second intruder. Glass shattered, smoke filled the air, and then, upload complete. The files had gone live. The explosion of truth. Across the world, journalists, hackers, and whistleblowers received a 4 gigabytes file titled, The Mirage Files. Human Programming Inside U.S. Intelligence. Included names, photos, Miranda's medical records, her father's confessions, and a list of 7 enhanced individuals. Within an hour, the story had gone viral. By morning, 4 agency heads had resigned, and a warrant was issued for the organization's secret director, the same woman in the trench coat. Daniel and Miranda were now targets of the most powerful machine in the world. But they were alive. And together, one last goodbye. They took refuge in Norway, living off-grid. Miranda wrote everything down, her story, her truth, and prepared it for a book titled, The Wife Who Was Never Supposed to Know. But peace was short-lived. One night, Daniel sat silently, staring at the fireplace. I can't run anymore, he said. I trained these people. I have to stop them. Miranda's eyes welled. I can't lose you, she whispered. You won't, he said, placing a thumb drive in her hand. This has everything we missed. If I don't come back, use it. He kissed her forehead just like the man she first met, then walked into the snow. 3 years later, the book became a bestseller. The Mirage program was dismantled. Officially, 3 of the enhanced subjects contacted Miranda. They were living quietly now, rebuilding their identities. But Daniel, he never returned. Until one day, at a book signing in Spain, Miranda saw a man sitting quietly in the back row. In glasses, beard. He looked up as she passed. He paused. He smiled. The same exact smile. And whispered, Told you I'd see you again, even if I couldn't see. Some stories don't end in perfect bows. Sometimes survival is the greatest love story of all. Miranda was never just a wife. She was the weapon they never expected to turn against them. And Daniel, he may have started with lies, but love made him fight for truth. Backhand index pointing right if you've been moved by this story. Don't scroll away. Like, comment your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe for more powerful stories that touch the heart and stir the soul. Thank you for watching, and remember, every scar has a story. Every heart has a purpose. Stay tuned for the next unforgettable tale right here on ZITA'S Stories. Remember to hit your notifications button.